Let's bring in now live Gordon Flake, the CEO of the Perth USAsia Centre. Gordon, I guess the question is, will China take much notice of Australia's statement?
The real question is, will the rest of the world? I think Australia has been pretty clever in this, and that it's not framing this as responding to a direct Chinese economic attack or Chinese coercion on Australia, but rather we're framing this as a Chinese attack on the World Trade Organization, on the system of norms, laws, and standards upon which all countries rely. The actual statement issued by Australia's ambassador to the WTO says implications of Chinese actions go beyond their impact on Australian exporters. By undermining the agreed trade rules, that China also undermines the multilateral trading system upon which all WTO members rely. And I think that's actually the right approach to take. It's about principles rather than individual impacts on a country like ours.
Gordon, we heard more this week about China joining the heated race for new long-range missiles that are harder to detect, harder to intercept. The weapon is believed to have actually missed its target, but does this represent a significant advance in China's military capabilities?
A lot of people in the arms control community are considering this to be another Sputnik moment, and it's not necessarily because of fancy words like hypersonic. I mean, things like that are not well defined by the general public, and they sound kind of scary. A hypersonic fractional orbital, bombardment system sounds really scary, but really, this is a missile that would circumnavigate the globe in subspace and then could glide in a different approach at speeds that exceed the speed of sound, hence hypersonic. But those are only about 3,800 miles per hour, as opposed to an intercontinental ballistic missile, which is about 15,000 miles an hour. So it's slower than what we got right now. The difference really is trajectory. And since almost all ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, come in from northerly approaches for the United States, the nascent U.S. missile defense system is really focusing and looking north. The concern about this is it's something that could deorbit from a different trajectory coming from the south. And so it's a question of an arms race, right? And if you're looking at this from an arms control perspective, it's certainly not a good thing. One would argue that it's a clarion call for the United States and China and Russia and the others who are working on these systems to get serious, that we don't slip back into a full-on Cold War like we've been in the past.
Well, I realise this is a pretty complex issue, but how does China's military strength compare with America's?
Oh, I mean, in a broader sense, it certainly isn't at parity yet. I think the real concern is trajectory. And with China's growing economic strength comes its ability to spend more and to focus more on research and development and technology. You won't be surprised that a lot of the concern coming out of the United States on this issue right now is about how that process was developed. I mean, it really has been built on the backs of 40 years of educational cooperation, technical cooperation between the United States and China. And so it's sparked a lot of calls to again, treat this more like a Cold War, to cut off that level of cooperation on technical and educational elements. And that's a worrying development, to be sure.
What about North Korea? They've been busy too. We've seen this submarine-launched missile trial. Are we expecting sanctions or further action on that front?
Well, they're highly sanctioned already. There's been 6 different UN Security Council sanctions resolutions levied against North Korea, and this most recent test, once again, is in violation of the existing Security Council resolutions. And so I don't think anything new will be added onto it, because you really couldn't add more beyond it. They're already heavily sanctioned. It does highlight for Australia, however, one of the fundamental weaknesses in our national security strategy. So our alliance with the United States is greatly enhanced after AUKUS and Osman and the Quad, but our reliance on the rules-based order, that system of laws and norms like the Non-Proliferation Treaty, like the UN, is greatly weakened. And both the story coming out of China and the story coming out of North Korea highlights the challenges that we face making our way forward in the world.
Certainly do, yes. Gordon Flake, appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.